Today's episode is brought to you by Red Cat Coffee House and their Landmark Series coffees. As a cat lover, I could not resist but introduce you specifically to this blend called Light Rails. It features a cat on the label, but not only that, each blend features a landmark, is inspired by a landmark of the city. This one is inspired by our vibrant Rainbow Tunnel downtown, and it has sweet fruits and mixed berries. You can find the Landmark series, including blends like Ironworks, Full Steam Ahead, Alabama Audubon, and Johns Valley Trail, either online, at Red Cat locations, or your local Piggly Wiggly. It's coffee with a story, and even with a feline charm. From Where to Here is independently produced by me, Alexandra Lloyd, crafted with curiosity, culture, and a little bit of coffee. Hi, I'm Alexandra Lloyd, a French-Canadian who's called Birmingham, Alabama home since 2017. Welcome to From Where to Here, the podcast that celebrates the rich diversity of languages, cultures, and the stories that connect us all. Each month, I'll sit down with inspiring guests from different backgrounds to explore their cultures, languages, and tackle some fun in our Truth, Dare, or Debunk segment. Whether you're a language enthusiast, a culture lover, or just curious about the world, you're in the right place. Let's dive into your next favorite cultural adventure. We had such a great exchange. Johannes was very generous with his time and he shared so many stories. I thought this was very helpful in understanding the culture, the German culture. He brought some goodies. I cannot wait to try some authentic German food, which is actually the Bavarian breakfast. So he shares about that, and he talked about the American dream from the movies, how we all know it, finding out about his impressions too of the U.S. Thought he was very aware of himself and the people that he meet, very open. He also shared some cool experiences that he's had with friends and family. He gave some great advice for anyone looking to relocate to another country as well, whether it's the US or just somewhere else. So on that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode and let me know what you think in the comments. Today we're diving into our guest's journey of moving from Germany to Alabama. Our guest works as an associate partner at Nginx Corporation USA. Nginx is a multinational corporate consulting firm specializing in the transformation and digitization of business models, products, and processes. He relocated here for work and has a fascinating story to share about adapting to life in the South, navigating cultural differences, adjusting to American culture, and maintaining his connection to Germany. We'll explore his experiences, tackle a few cultural myths, and of course, talk about languages. Johannes, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Yeah.
I'd like to start when we first met. I remember we were in a little cafe in Homewood, and I was just there working on my computer. I heard a voice behind me, and it wasn't English, it wasn't French. It sounded like German, but I wasn't entirely sure, and it just interested me. I thought, okay, I need to ask this person, I need to talk to him. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I just felt compelled to talk to you and just ask you like where you're from and all of this, because we don't often hear other languages, other people from different cultures as much as maybe in a more diversity, like where I'm from in Montreal. I know it's everywhere, but here in Birmingham is not as common. And just I just start talking to you. I think you were on a work call, was it?
No, actually I was talking to my parents, so it was a FaceTime call. And it was funny because yesterday I talked to them again and I told them about the podcast. And I remember that I was talking to them in the cafe, and I think it was in the afternoon, early afternoon, because it was evening for them, and we caught up on topics basically, and it was nice. And then you approached me because, of course, apparently German is different, and then we started talking, and I think we quickly also talked about then Spanish and your time of learning the language and the intercultural experiences we had so far. So it was really nice.
Yeah. You were learning Spanish. And I think you said some of your coworkers or people that...
About the Autobahn, and then we jumped to the regulations, the rules and regulations. And then I mentioned the consulate topic.
You work with, speak Spanish mostly, and you wanted to be able to converse with them, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, part of my team is Mexican, I would say like 40%-ish. So we hire, consultants, engineers from Mexico as well, because they have great experience in education, and we do a lot of business in the automotive industry. So for us, it's basically also an advantage with their experience in the automotive business, and the knowledge to have them, taking part in our projects and help us grow our business here in the U.S. And of course, their primary language is Spanish. So for me, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, of course, to learn it. But at the same time, it brings me closer and it gives me a better understanding of their their culture, and just feel like the communication is improved,
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey from Germany to here. What inspired the move, and what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you first got here? Tell us all about it.
And it can be a long story, because I have to go back. It didn't really start with my time or my decision going to the U.S. It was actually end of my studies. I spent some time in South Africa. So I basically, my studies ended, but the final evaluation of my paper went into the next semester. So I had to kill some time, and I wanted to, improve my language skills and learn something about a new culture. So South Africa was brought up, and I thought about it, and I was like, there could be something. So I went on a learning journey, so to say. So for 3 months, I flew to Cape Town, South Africa, spent most of the time in a language school. So we did, regular lessons, but also had activities. And then at the end, I had a 4-week or so internship at a consulting firm in Cape Town. So it was a combination of learning the language, but then also using it. And this just taught me so much. I mean, I was literally, not literally, but almost shitting my pants, sitting in that plane. It was back then the A380, which is the biggest airplane in the world, right? It's a huge plane, very new. Frankfurt, Cape Town, 11-hour flight. I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't know anybody. Going there, I speak the language a little bit, but I have no idea. So I was really afraid, but a little bit excited as well. So I went there, and then the learning curve was so steep. It was amazing. So learning about the people, about the culture, how they live there, what the circumstances are, the politics, the history with Nelson Mandela. Just everything was so much overwhelming almost. It took me weeks, almost months after my trip to digest and realize what I've been through. But also then taking that and finding out for myself, hey, I want to go now. I want to explore the world.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a start for me. So when I came back from Cape Town, a little bit of a culture shock, because Cape Town, I left it at, in degrees, 30-something degrees Celsius, probably like 95-ish Fahrenheit in the US. Sunny, beautiful, and I landed in Frankfurt snowing, right? And cold, and I was like, oh God, I want to go back. Go back. So when I started my job with Ingenix a couple of months later in Germany, they asked me about the Auslandsbereitschaft, which is basically the willingness to work abroad,
And how do you call that?
Auslandsbereitschaft.
Okay.
That's basically saying more or less, hey, how much are you willing to live and work abroad, in which countries? So they go through countries, and I said, yeah, US, absolutely always a dream.
Why?
US, I mean, it starts with movies. Hollywood movies in Germany.
So the American dream was real in your...
Yeah. It's the shows. I actually watched Breaking Bad at that time.
So good.
Which is amazing.
So good.
Amazing show. So for me, it was a dream. So I said, hey, look, US, China, whatever comes up I'm gonna try it out. So a couple of months later, actually, US was being discussed for me as a first project outside of Germany, and I said, yeah, let's do it. And the plan was for 1 year. So first project as a junior project engineer in the automotive business in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Flying over I will never forget that day when I actually then flew over to the US. I arrived in Atlanta and had to take a rental car to Tuscaloosa. It was already late. Mm-hmm. And I was driving with the rental car on the highway, first moments in the US, and people started like flashing their headlights at me, and like, it's like, what's going on? What am I doing wrong, right? So, and then one guy even gave me his middle finger, I was like, what the heck is going on here? And then I realized the city lights were so bright and everything around the airport was lit up, including the highway, that I didn't have my headlights on. Mm. And once I left the city, 10-15 minutes later on, it was dark and I was driving without headlights. So they were kind of reminding me of that in their way. Oh. So that was an interesting welcome. But I made it to Tuscaloosa safe. And the next morning, I already arrived at the client. It was a Friday. And this was already kind of it was my first kind of exposure to I would call it Southern laid backness. Mm-hmm. Because the client manager, she said, look, I didn't expect you here on a Friday. You start on a Monday, that's fine. I'm saying, okay, cool. I'll win another day. I can get my stuff done. Went back home and I had the weekend to kind of like get to know my surrounding. And I felt the Southern hospitality right away kind of a little bit, and that helped a lot. Mm. Yeah. So that was kind of my journey from Germany through South Africa to the US. Yeah.
Wow. And what was the time frame that you were, so going back in South Africa, how long did you stay there?
3 months.
3 months?
3 months, yeah. And it sounds, compared to now my time in the US, it sounds very short, but yeah. I was even, like 1 day was already a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of in that mindset, hey, look, I'm leaving everything I know. I leave my comfort zone. I have no clue what's ahead of me. Like a week is already a lot, right? So before that, I spent 2 weeks in the UK as an exchange student many years before. Okay. And that was my very, very first interaction with a foreign-ish culture, right? So that kind of showed me it was horrible. I mean, the start back then, 25-hour bus ride to UK. I was sick at the time as well, had the flu or something like that. So I was really not in a good shape. And then doing this trip, I was like, I don't want to do it. And then the first encounter with the host family, food was horrible, right? It was just, really? Everything was not good, but I fought through it. And in the end, I made friends. I had great experience at the end as well. And this kind of showed me, there's always going to be ups and downs. Yeah. And it's a matter of how you see it and how you take it and learn from it. That was kind of like the very first experience for me abroad. Yeah. You said coming here and wow. So you were very eager to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah, absolutely. Were you looking for a new challenge of some sort? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So for me, I was 25, 26-ish around that time. So I finished my studies. I had already work experience in Germany. And Africa showed me there's more in the world. So I definitely wanted to explore a new continent and finally make my dream happen to come to the US and kind of explore this country. which I actually did. So in the first year, thinking I'm going to stay only 1 year, I did all the trips I could do within that 1 year.
Okay.
Even including Hawaii, for example, like further distances. Not knowing that I'm going to stay 8 more years after that, and I'm still here, you know.
Wait, so how long have you been in Alabama? So Tuscaloosa, Birmingham?
Tuscaloosa, Birmingham area, 9.5 years almost.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a long time, and it was very important for me to move from Tuscaloosa out to Birmingham.
Why is that?
Because there's just a huge difference. I think Tuscaloosa is Alabama for sure. Birmingham feels like a different place. Birmingham feels very liberal, that more diverse. You know, it's almost like if you hit a wall going to Birmingham, and then it's just more. It's different. It's in terms of also, you know, culinary experience. You have restaurants, bars, outdoors. You have stuff to do, and it's closer to Atlanta. The Birmingham airport, I live now 6-7 minutes away, flying anywhere pretty much, at least to Atlanta and then somewhere, or direct flights, you know. So that helped a lot as well. And then, just friends and people.
It's a dynamic city, and then you also have access to entertainment, travel, I guess, to the airport nearby.
Yes.
So it's, I can see that. Yeah. Going back to what you said about, you know, you got here, something you really appreciated was the Southern hospitality. Can you give an example of what that looked like for someone that has never been in the South and then experiencing that Southern hospitality? Because I know what you mean, but just, I'm curious to hear if there was a particular moment or something that really stood out to you coming here.
Yeah, I give you an example, and I give you also the opposite.
Okay.
So I think one of the first things I remember I was in the Home to Suites hotel back then for like a couple of weeks when I came here, and just the first interaction in the elevator when I was approached, and they looked at my shoes and they said, "Look, I love your shoes," right? Kind of. And then we started, and I said half a word, and they asked me, "Oh, where are you from?"
Yeah.
So they noticed my accent, and we started talking. And this happened so many other times where people just opened a conversation, and even though it was more superficial, it helped me, you know, talking, getting into conversations, getting to know people. The small talk part is something that we Germans typically don't do. So I was a very different person before I came to the United States. And then a friend of mine, a very good friend, visited me 1.5 years later, and he said, "Johannes, you have changed. Like, you've become that person that is now outgoing." It kind of like I released my inner self more because I was finally maybe in my natural habitat. I don't know, you know. I was maybe never really at home in Germany. So that these little encounters helped a lot. And then a few years ago, I was invited, for example, to a football game. And this started with the pre-gaming, you know, and I was...
the tailgating.
Tailgating, yeah, absolutely right. And the family let me in like I was their son, right? And we had a really good time together. And it felt so natural. And that to me is also the Southern hospitality. I had a little bit of a culture shock again after a couple of months being here in the U.S. and then flying to New York, because New York is different. New York is fast, is almost no time to be nice, is what my impression was at the beginning. Little example, I was there at the ticket machine, you know, for the subway station. And I had trouble getting my ticket out. Instead of someone helping me, there were guys behind me saying, "Hey, what's the problem? What's wrong?" You know, pushing me, like pressuring me. So I was like, okay, that's different here. I have to get back to my German pace and then be, you know, on the same level. That totally different experience. First time New York, I did not like it at all.
And then you went back?
And I went back multiple times because I'm a huge tennis fan. And I then always traveled for the U.S. Open to New York around Labor Day weekend.
That's awesome.
And I kind of learned to love the city more and more and see the the positive sides of it. Yeah.
So do you play tennis yourself?
I did a long time in Germany for 20 years before I left. And here I had issues playing on the hard court, like outside, which is mostly the case here. But I got back into it half a year ago here. So it was on and off relationship. And I then got into pickleball, which
I was about to ask, because now everyone plays pickleball.
Everyone plays pickleball, which is funny. And it's very easy to play, especially when you play tennis. And I'm doing both at the moment. So there's a super cool new court, or the new courts in the Wald Park in, where is it? Vestavia. Super nice area. So yeah, we'll play there with friends Saturday, Sunday sometimes. So that's cool. Yeah. But yeah, New York kind of showed me that there's differences within the U.S. kind of, from how people are even talking, right? Slangs, little cultural differences. So yeah, that was an interesting experience.
I love that you give it a try to explore different states in the U.S. and also not let the first impression tell you what this area is all about. Like you mentioned, you went to New York once. It gave you a specific perception of the city, and then you didn't let that influence what the city is about. Instead, you went back, and then you had a slightly different experience, and then it kind of evolved your thoughts about what New York is about. And I mean, we often do that with people, even where you meet someone for the first time, you think something because of how the interaction went, and that might be like, okay, like this is who this person is and that's how they are. And then it's like, well, until you actually ask question or get to know the person more, you're not really going to know what this person is all about. She might have been going through a tough day or you never know what people go through. But so I like that you said that, because I think it can go a long way.
That's funny because my best friend here in the U.S., I did not like him at all at the beginning.
And now it's your best friend?
And now,
it's a good friend?
He was ahead of me, I think, in terms of, I don't know, he used to be, when we met at the beginning, I didn't like him in terms of, we didn't get along because he was very, very much more outgoing than I was. And when we were going out in places, he was approaching women, like super, and I was like more shy, and I was like, okay, that's all too much for me right now. And he had, just other perspectives, and it took me, I think 2 years, 3 years or so, and then we met again. And since then, I mean, there's so much trust and support with each other. It's a really good relationship, and it ended up me flying to Germany for his wedding. He married an American in Germany, and we've been friends since then. But at the beginning, I didn't think about that at all.
Wait, so you met in the first place?
We met here in the U.S.
And he met someone?
He met someone from, I think she's from Iowa, but they met in Birmingham. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually not the only example that I know of foreigners, of course, meeting their significant other here in the U.S.
So you did?
I did not know.
Okay. A lot of people actually come to Birmingham as part of startups, because we have a hub here in Birmingham that helps startups. I mean, I've heard there's someone from Montreal, and there are people from all over the world. But in your case, with your company, that's a global company, correct?
Yes.
So nothing related to startup in this case, is it?
I mean, not directly. We wouldn't directly benefit from it, but we are really at the connection between, for example, German companies thinking about going over to the United States and open their business, that we have the first conversations with them, usually through chambers, right?
Yep, chambers of commerce.
Sometimes I have a call with a German company that thinks about coming to the United States, and specifically Alabama, for example, and then I give them some feedback, some insights, and this is where we usually connect, right? Not necessarily opening our own company, right? But I see that also. I've heard that, and I've met people that started a company here, and there's a lot of support which is great, and you can feel it in the city, right? So that's very positive.
I'm curious if you can share what it's like working for a global company in bridging the gap between the German firm and to the American market.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. It has been a very interesting journey so far, because German companies, at least our company, we are very focused on structure, on standards. Here in the U.S., our U.S. subsidiary, the way we lead it is we adapt it as much as possible to the American market, because there's things that we do differently here. We are way faster in decision making than in Germany. We have less like levels, the hierarchy is different. Yeah. We don't have all the standards in place, because we have to do a kind of a smart standardization, what is actually needed, what slows us down. And the way, in business development mostly, the way we can react to offers or to requests is much faster than in some other areas of our company. So it's really learning to understand the market and then compare it with what our company offers, what is important. Of course, there is things that we have to follow and which we all benefit from, but we should not just copy and paste it. I think that was one of the big differences. What helped me here in the US, also in my career, is we can shape our future here. We can work with multi-diverse teams and really create something. And if something is not existing, we can build it for us and drive it to success. And that's kind of what helped me a lot. Yeah.
Can you share an example of that?
For example, one of the major clients I'm working with, we have had a very small team at the beginning. We had 4 or 5 people working there. And at the peak, we had 40, 45 people working there. So there was a huge development over a short period of time. And I felt the need that we have to be close and listen to our employees when they're working in these projects. But not every one of us can be there all the time, right? So what I kind of developed is, I called it the group lead system. So basically, we identified young leaders, young talents in our organization that wanted to support our company, have first-hand exposure in terms of communicating, conflict management, talking to people. So we basically divided our team into 4 or 5 segments, and then groups, and then have each young leader lead these groups, and they would then report to me ultimately. And that helped a lot, being closer to our employees and get their feedback when things have to be improved, and they needed attention, and also just for communication purposes. And that's not something that we do typically in that specific way in Germany, for example.
Oh, wow. So really you saw that it improved the overall culture and
moral culture, communication, because there were challenges at the beginning, especially when we had Mexican people come over and work in these projects, because it's just a different way of communicating. And they don't come straight to me. And I was at the beginning surprised, why are they not talking to me directly about issues? They're going to someone else. And this is something that I used as an example of building that structure, so that we get still the information and this person is more comfortable, going through corners, but the information still flows to me and we can still act and react. That was a big learning curve for me.
Wow. It's really creating that space for them to bring up any concerns, but also maybe even ideas, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. In the end, the chance for everyone, on the one hand, I see it's basically learning, or a chance on both sides, right? For the group leaders itself, of course, is a little step already in terms of leadership and self-growth, and then also on the employee side, that they have the chance to bring in ideas for improvement, talk about issues at work. Sometimes you just want to talk. Yeah. And then this information doesn't have to come to me, right? Yeah. If they want something to be heard, and it will will be ultimately reported and we talk about it. But at the beginning, we were so little. We had, our company has now 150 people in North America. And back then it was not even half of that, right? So it was small.
Well done on creating that.
Thanks.
That initiative. That's great. What was it like learning the English terminology for your profession?
We learn English in Germany. It's like part of the secondary school education, like high school. So for many years, I would say we started in the 5th grade. I think today even sooner in the primary school. For 8-9 years you learn English, plus a second language, which I chose Latin. Okay,
has it been a good choice?
I mean, yeah, in terms of Roman languages and learning other languages and understanding the idea or definitely. Speaking, I mean, of course, Latin, right? It's funny. So, no, English... you learn all the words, most of them, unfortunately, which I never really liked so much, UK more than American English. And I don't want to say lorry to a truck or whatnot. There's like so many weird... I just don't like it personally, but...
I just learned something.
So you get the basics, and then when I came here, a very interesting situation was that I had to learn the car terminology, because I was working a lot with people on the shop floor that were building the cars. I knew about cars, I knew the basic terms, right, in German, English, but there were so many specifics. I mean, there's thousands of parts that go into a car, right? So I started learning them in English first, partially, because I didn't think about the German ones. At some point, there were German business visitors from that car manufacturer coming over to the US, and they asked me in German about that part, and I had no clue because I learned it in English. I was like, what do you want from me? So it was very interesting. I said, yeah, of course, because you learned it all in English. And after a couple of months being there, so at the beginning, first of all, as you described, you think too much. You still think before you talk, right? You kind of translate it and you talk, and then the moment is over. What I wanted to achieve ultimately is being the same person or have the same character in English than in German. And that means, being funny, having like some sarcasm sometimes. So kind of like not changing because I'm changing the language. And that, I think, was at the beginning a challenge, but it took 3 to 6 months until I let go and then started dreaming in English even, and then started talking without thinking, even though I made mistakes. But
we all do.
Yeah, 6 to 12 months later, there was more and more development. And then after a year, my manager came to me and said, hey, look, I think you have made a big step, right? And I could see it myself.
I'm just curious, just in addition to what you already share, is there an advice that you would give to others going through the same experience of having to learn the terminology that is not in their native language and having to interact with different groups of individuals that speak different languages that expect you to show up in a certain way, right? As part of your job? What advice would you give others?
I think generally be open, right? Embrace it. It's a bridge that you have to go through in order to reach the other person. So it's really something that opens doors, and it's work at the beginning, but it will pay off. So just be open and kind of, approach it with a positive mindset, and then you'll be happy about the result at some point. And now, which is super interesting, so I worked also with people on the shop floor, I said earlier, and they have a slang, right? They talk, what's up, cause? This is like things that I didn't understand.
In the day-to-day, or you mean in the industry, industry terms?
In the industry, but also day-to-day. I mean, for example, airport transportation is one of the things that come to my mind. You're getting into a bus, and the African-American driver in this case, said something, and I was with people from Germany. They visited me. They didn't understand a word. And although I don't speak the same slang, I could understand almost everything. And I could have a conversation with Uber drivers, with all these situations that you're getting in. That helped me. I think at the beginning it was not possible for me as well, but I could see the development over the years, and that's cool. I like it.
And you mentioned the dreaming in another language.
Yeah.
That's a question I often get. What was the click for you when you realized you were dreaming in that English language? Like that confirmation for you, like, oh, I can speak as well English as I can speak German? Or was it just like, oh, that was cool?
Yeah, it was more like surprising because it doesn't happen to me anymore. I would not recognize it, I would say, right now or today. But back then it was weird because it happened. And I was aware of it in the morning when I woke up. I said, that was weird and interesting. Why? But I didn't pay more attention after that, right?
Nice. And tell me about, how has it been for you to build communities? I mean, you talked a little bit about different interactions and groups of people that you have met along the way. How's it been for you to come here and then, I mean, literally starting your life from scratch? How have you been engaging with others and get that sense of belonging in a way?
Yeah, it helped at the beginning because I was in an apartment center in which also a few other Germans were. Oh. So that helped. They were partially from the same company. That was kind of supportive because you can share your experience with them. You can ask a lot of questions. They've been through stuff that will help you, even if it's simple things like, I don't know how to, get my power going or internet or, the basics basically. So that helps a lot. And then really going to as many events as possible at the beginning to meet other people and become part of the community. But also, which I tried to do at some point later, there's specifically, as an expatriate, you are mostly then also with expats, right? So you have kind of a lot of German surrounding, which I didn't like too much.
Why is that?
Because they leave their home, they come to the United States, they work, maybe with you. So you do a lot of stuff together. You're exploring the country together, which is nice, which is great. But at some point I wanted to have also the more local exposure, especially after I decided to stay more than just a year. Mm-hmm. Because when you hang out, for example, I was 25 back then, when you hang out with interns, they leave in 6 months. You build up a relationship, they go, and you kind of, that's emotionally difficult because you're winning and losing kind of, right? Although some of them I'm still in touch with, and some of them actually just returned in the past 6 months to have a leadership position here in the U.S. So it's kind of nice to see them again and have that relationship. But it doesn't help you too much to build community. So I was also trying to more be with people that are more local. What helped as well was the German-American Chamber of Commerce later on, or the Alabama-Germany Partnership. So there are these institutions in place that bring US and Germany together. So you will still meet Germans in certain positions, leaders, but they will also show you their experiences, the places they've been to, the issues they've been through. That helps a lot. But also there's US or locals involved, Americans, and you get in touch with them. So it's kind of like mixed. And then you get the best of both worlds. And with this, you can kind of build that bilingual identity, actually. Yeah. How,
for anyone interested in finding those local institutions, how do you go about finding these? How do you go about finding them if you're brand new in the city and you want to get connected? Did someone told you about it, or did you just do research online, or how did it happen?
I'm trying to recall how I got into that. I think the first one was the Alabama-Germany partnership, and I'm sure if you look that up, there's probably also going to be Alabama and then another country partnership, you know. So I think that's Google research is the first step always. I think it went through a friend, more or less, who has been already in that partnership, and he introduced me to this group, and that's kind of how I got into it. And then later on, I mean, I highly recommend, especially if you work in business, to try out chambers. There's the Birmingham Business Alliance. There's different other possibilities to meet people, the young professionals, right? And I think through young professionals, you get into others, they tell you things. So I believe in networks, and it has proven to be super successful for me. And I can only recommend that, to build communities.
I need to share a little story about that proves that you've been a very good networker. Because one day I went to that bar called the House of the House of Found Objects?
Yeah.
Such a fun bar in the area. And then I look at the menu thinking, oh, what drink am I gonna pick tonight? And then I see Johannes. I see your name on there. Does it say something additional? Because
my last name.
Oh, there was your last name too. Yeah. So I was like, wait, I know that's him. I knew that was you, and I think I sent you a pig. I was like, wait. And apparently they put the names of people that often come to the bar, a testimony of how you've been networking, going to that place at that time.
Yeah, I think there was a time definitely I was going out more and building also relationships, and people started to get to know me. This was a little bit of help also from my best friend Daniel, who is also in the bar. He's not on the menu, but he's somewhere on the on top.
Okay.
And it was actually it's an interesting story, because there was a time when I didn't drink alcohol at all, so I wanted I went to Colin's bar, which is across the street, and Colin's usually makes drinks based on your taste, what you like. And I said, look, I like having gingery based drink, non-alcoholic, with maybe some cinnamon, vanilla, and so on in it, right? So they created something, and I liked it a lot. Then I was going to House of Found Objects, and I ordered this drink a couple of times, going there saying, look, can you make me something like that? And Faisal is super good with his bartenders. They do an amazing job. So they created this drink on and off, and at some point, Daniel, my best friend, he said, Johannes, we have to go out tonight. I said, why? What do you want? Right? Why? I'm not in the mood. He said, we have to go out tonight. I said, okay, let's go. So we went to that bar. He walked in, and then one of the bartenders came to me and said, Johannes, you have to sign this. I said, what do you mean? Look on the menu. And I saw my name on the menu. And I signed the first menu, and then we ordered, of course, my drink. And this was a non-alcoholic drink. So that's why you found it in the section of non-alcoholic drinks, but you can add booze to it, right? This is when it got created, and it was funny when we ordered drinks, and at the end, I paid, and the receipt says my name twice, for example. Yeah. So it's just totally funny. And it stayed on there for quite some time. Yeah, but he's redoing the menu more and more, and I'm not a frequent visitor anymore so much, but it has nothing to do with the drinks. It's more my personal lifestyle. If
you don't mind me asking, what are you more interested in these days?
It is work on the one side. It keeps me very busy, but then in addition, I started a program with the MIT Professional Education in addition, which is digital transformation program, and then also touches on cultural awareness, leadership and innovation, so different aspects. And then also working out. I run a lot, and then when I see friends a bit, it's all like enough. And then trying to still recharge and kind of make the right decisions, and instead of like chasing every carrot that's out there, right? So I wanted to make sure I'm all in one flow, basically.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, having your priorities in line with what really you want to do, short term, long term, that's very important.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's awesome. You've had a lot of experience interacting, socializing with German speakers, English speakers. What's your approach with each? Is it the same or is it different? And how?
I think it comes naturally now, and I never really followed a guideline. But when I read about it, it was interesting because there is a difference. You know, German speakers, they're like more informal, more formal, more structured, efficient, and what appeared to me like the Americans, they're more, you know, informal, more relaxed, flexible, you know, in the communication. And in all these social or group settings, I think that you will notice at some point that in a German group setting, someone will speak and the others will listen, and they will not interrupt like right away. It's kind of a sign of respect. Versus in an American group setting, you would probably see multiple conversations happening at the same time, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. And for example, I don't do too much small talk when I have only German counterparts in a business setting, because I can feel right away they're getting like, you know, itchy, hey, let's get started on the topic.
Okay. They like to go.
They want to go
dive in right
straight.
away.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk 5 minutes about the weather with them, you know.
But here you would.
Here in the U.S., I mean, there's, you know, football, soccer, weather, location. There's always something comes up. There's always something I try to catch and then start a conversation and then flow slowly into the actual topic and why we are here today, right? When it's mixed, then it's kind of like who is leading the meeting, right?
Okay.
Where's the company from? How much time do we have? Kind of try to get a feeling for it always. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's very interesting. I think French and Germans are similar.
Similar, yeah.
In that sense. When working internationally, how important is it to connect with others who speak your native language?
I think it's very important. I think it's a powerful tool to connect with fellow Germans. And I mentioned the different chambers earlier, right? So these opportunities are great to interact, because they perceive your surrounding maybe differently than you do. So you can get different perspectives, because your own perspective doesn't have to be right. It can, as you know, from the first encounter, it can change over time, and it's a process. So you adapt, you learn, you make mistakes, and then maybe on the next one you do it better, right? And you start thinking more out of the box and not putting people into stereotypes or something like that. Yeah. So that definitely is very helpful and very important.
And I like you have a natural awareness that I see about yourself and about others. I don't know if you know that about you, but I can tell from the stories you share, you have that natural awareness, and it probably have served you well to connect with people from different backgrounds. To not let that first impression again dictate the future or what this person is all about.
Yeah, it feels so. One of my strengths is basically I want to be inclusive, right? So it's very important for me if we sit at a table and we have different people at the table and different languages, that we include everybody. So we don't switch to German only if it's super necessary, and then we translate it. But I want to make sure that everyone feels part of the group, and I have a bad feeling in that moment if someone is left out. So that's one of the reasons probably. But yeah, it's just, I see always chance, possibility, growth, or I don't know, just the chance for a good moment, meeting someone new and learning about where they are from and what they do. I
love that. How has living in Birmingham changed how you see your home culture back in Germany? Because I'm sure it has had an impact in your life. And you said, it's a lot of ups and downs.
I think it's not, I think I would go reach a little bit higher altitude level and not just Birmingham.
Okay, yeah.
Because to me, there is no difference if it's Birmingham or, the U.S. in general. There might be differences in places like, I don't know, New York or so. But since I've been living here, and at some point you reach more distance to your home. And I, at some point, noticed differences. For example, one being the positivity. So people in Germany tend to be more a little bit, see the things that are maybe not working, things to complain about, versus the opportunities. People are happy for you here in the United States, from my perspective or my experiences. When you're successful, when you drive a nice car, they come up to you and say, look, what are you doing? They see that someone's trying to live the American dream, and then they support you with that, and they want to become you, right? So they
get inspired.
Thank you. So that's a really cool thing, and that's what I'm missing in Germany, for example. That's a big difference. It might has to do something with weather, because here I think we have more than 200 sunny days in Alabama, versus 60, 70 in Germany, in some parts at least where I'm from.
Yeah.
So it's really a big difference. It has an impact on your mood.
Tell us, where in Germany are you from originally?
I'm from a city between Munich and Stuttgart. It's called Ulm, ULM. And it's the birthplace of Albert Einstein.
Ooh.
And it has the highest church in the world.
In the world. So
in the world.
It beats... So that
the
city
dome
beats
in Cologne.
Here, Birmingham.
Oh yeah.
And okay, because I think there's a lot of churches here.
Yeah. But it's unbeaten. I mean, I think it takes you 760 something steps to get up to the top.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a nice city, but it also is close to the Danube River, I think you say in English, like the Donau. It's a river that flows through Ulm, and this also creates a lot of foggy days, I would say, in the fall, right?
Okay.
You don't see the sun so much, and that really has an impact on your mood as well. So around that time, I try to avoid going to Germany because the sun is just not there. I think that's one of the differences. What else? So living in the United States definitely has shown me that there's more opportunities and upsides, right? And a chance for success, versus really in Germany, things that, can make it a little bit more difficult or challenging, because people tend to see more like the negative sides. But what I also see as a big difference, which I love in Europe, is history. Everything in Europe goes back, or most of it, thousands of years. So you have these castles, art, culinary experiences, buildings. And here I miss that. We have a couple of centuries here in the U.S. A lot of came over, from Europe. So that's something that I feel like I'm missing out on here. So when I'm over in Germany, I should do it actually more, but really connecting with these cities in Europe, like Paris and Amsterdam. I love these cities. You can see so much and learn about where we are from.
Are you someone that enjoy a lot of museums, or how do you actually get the history? When you go in a city, is it just a matter of walking and doing normal activities and finding history and admiring buildings or monuments or whatever the case might be? Or is it actually like taking a day, like attending a museum or something else? Like, how do you actually embrace the history when you go to cities like Paris and Amsterdam?
Yeah, when I think about Paris, I went to Louvre, I went to, places like Eiffel Tower, walking the streets, going to special places, to restaurants. It's a mix, I would say. What I started doing more and more is first thing I pack when I go somewhere is my running shoes, because I felt running through cities, new cities, is I explore a lot. It's not the typical running I do. I would stop and then, what is this? And then maybe I read about it, take pictures, and then make it like a little tour. What I also like to do is take rather Airbnbs than hotels, and then maybe even have places that have a special history. So it's a mix. It's and then talk to people. I think there's so much you can learn from people that have lived or have been living in these cities, and events, right? So sometimes they're like, I was in Amsterdam for Christmas once, and it was a very nice Christmas concert in an old building, and it was absolutely wonderful.
Oh, what kind of music?
It was an orchestra playing, was including a harp, for example. And I don't hear that too often, right? So, yeah, definitely a great experience. And I highly recommend everybody going to Europe, really taking the time, sometimes the not so touristy spots are maybe more interesting.
Oh, right? I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah. Do you have any gems to recommend? No, you have to share all the best spots. Maybe we'll put a sheet together. Quick disclaimer here: for the next hour or so, you might notice a slight change in our voices and the sound quality, but I really hope you still find the conversation just as engaging. I have a good question for you. Do you feel pressure to assimilate or adapt to the new culture, or do you embrace both cultures equally? In this case, your German heritage culture and the American culture.
I would say no, I don't feel pressured at all. I just try to be the person who I am. And I think the U.S. is the land of the free. Kind of, it gives me the freedom to express myself, to be who I am. Of course, there's some boundaries, right? Left and right a little bit. But it's very interesting because in Germany, there's so many rules and regulations of it basically tell you how not to do it, versus here in the U.S., they let you do it and then at some point come and get you back into, your I would say like direction where you should be going in terms of, I don't know, it could be anything, but my feeling or my experience is I can really, as I said, I can do whatever I like to do, kind of like, and explore new things and do stuff, but and not gonna hit any limitations so much, also in terms of my culture. And I don't feel like I have to behave in a certain way. I feel like US is really a melting pot, many different cultures. And if someone doesn't accept the way I am, I think then it's his world, right? It's not mine.
Well said. When you say there's a lot of rules and restrictions in Germany, and here it kind of lets you do it and then bring you back. Could you give an example of what that might look like?
Opening a business in Germany, I have not had the experience of opening a business, but I've heard from friends and from other podcasts that there's just so much documentation and paperwork, bureaucracy to get it started that some people even don't get it started because it's too much, it's overwhelming. And here it takes you hours, maybe a day or two to open a new business, an LLC, and there you go, right? And then you can get some advisors or some questions along the way. That's what I'm, where I'm seeing the difference.
That's a great example. I can totally see that now. Are there any particular customs, traditions, or ritual from your culture that you continue to practice?
Yeah. There's a couple. Actually, one is there's one that I also brought you a few gifts. I'm gonna share that.
That is so nice of you.
So basically, what I do, I explain it first.
Okay.
It's called the Weißwurst-Frühstück, white sausage breakfast. Can you translate it right away?
Well, what is it calling in?
Weißwurst, Frühstück. Frühstück is breakfast, and the Weißwurst is the white sausage.
Okay.
And it's a very typical Bavarian breakfast. And I usually get it when I'm flying to Munich. At the airport, there's a very famous restaurant called Airbräu. And when I land around 9:30, 10 a.m., first thing I do is go in, grab that breakfast with a Hefeweizen, like a wheat beer.
Yeah, this one I don't know how to say it, but I knew what you were talking about.
And this is my start of in Germany, getting back to Germany. So I practice this here sometimes with friends, for German friends mostly, or certain occasions. It doesn't have to be special. It's just like, let's have a Weißwurst retreat, So what does it consist of? Of course, I bought you 2 glasses of the Hefeweiß beer to share. Then we have, and that's very important, German pretzels. They are part of it, right? Yeah. And it took me a long time to find here in the U.S. German pretzels, and this is a pretzel mix. And you make that in the oven, right? You have to first put it all together. All ingredients of German pretzels are in here.
Okay.
You just have to mix it together, follow the instructions, and then put them in the oven, bake them, and after that, it's absolutely the same taste as in German. I've done it multiple times now, and I get a world market, and it's absolutely. I'll show you pictures later. It's really good. It turned out really well.
So this package makes 8-10 pretzels, like the big size.
The big, like, this is the regular German size, like not the
The American ones.
Yeah.
So, but
This size.
okay.
And then these pretzels come out of the oven. I give it a few minutes, but then they so amazing. And of course, another important ingredient or part of this is the actual Weißwurst, right?
Okay.
So here we have, I think they say 5 on here. Typically, when you make them fresh, you can peel the skin off and eat it without the skin. There's also a certain technique in Bavaria where they kind of suck it out of the sausage, which is funny. I cannot do that. But here in the US, since it's already in a glass, it's pre-cooked to make it overseas. You just cook it, you heat it up, and you eat it with the skin. You won't even notice the skin, right? So, and one final piece.
It says pipe German Weißwurst.
Weißwurst. Yeah.
Sausages.
Correct.
Very cool.
The final piece is the German, they say bayerisch süßer Hausmachersenf. So it's a sweet mustard
to eat with.
And this is where you put your sausage in or pretzel, whatever you like. So that all makes one delicious meal. And there's 100% sure there's actual, like, true perfect Bavarians that they tell you, no, it has to be at whatever 8. Nah, there's not really a time. It's in the morning. I would say late morning. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So this is one of the traditions that I keep doing here, and I love the fact that I can get it all.
Yeah.
Even though it's not 100% perfect.
Yeah.
But the pretzels to a German son are amazing. Yeah. The sausage I'm fine with, and the mustard I get from friends. So they bring it all over from Germany all the time.
Wait, so this, you actually travel, you brought this from your travel?
Only the mustard.
Only the mustard.
Only mustard.
Okay.
The other stuff this is World Market, this is World Market, and these 2 are from my favorite Hopped City Wine and Beer in Pepper Place.
Okay. Very nice.
They're good stuff. And technically, they need to be bigger, right? They're only a small size, but technically it's half a liter in Germany.
Okay.
So you can also fill a Hefeweizen glass the right way. And there's also some technique to it.
Oh, okay. Should we get a glass and you show us or some mace?
I need to have actual glass.
Okay. When you say the technique, or I'm curious then, because I worked in restaurants and we have to, you will tip the glass, but then I'm sure there's like more techniques since you said that.
You have to have foam on top of it, right? It's not foamless. Like 99% of the beers I'm getting here, even the Pilsners, they are almost foamless. They put it like in and then have it in the end, like sitting like that, right? For me, that's a no-go. But with especially Hefeweizen, you want to make sure that you have like this much of a foam on top. You let a little bit in at the end, and then you twist it around, and then you put the rest on top of it. You don't fill everything in. You leave like a little bit left. Then you rotate it, right? and then you get all of it out on top.
Got it.
You get more foam out of it at the end, basically.
Oh, that's new. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I would try to poach it almost once, typically.
No.
But I make sure to leave the foam, but I will do it.
Okay. I can show it to you, but later. Or basically, there's also tons of videos out.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's the tradition with the Weißwurstfrühstück.
Yep.
And then what I had made a week or 2 weeks ago was schnitzel with potato salad, which I like to do once in a while. I like it a lot. Typically, it's made with veal, but I think I only had chicken this time. And yeah, it's just a typical German dish as well. I would call it like super German because it's, I think, originally Austrian, the Wiener Schnitzel of Austria, but something I love a lot. And then, of course, around the Christmas time now, Glühwein, mulled wine, very famous. I like to do it myself as well, but you can get great bottles from Aldi here. And Aldi has the Nürnberger mulled wine, Glühwein bottles. It's pretty good.
Is there only one kind that they sell?
Yep.
Okay.
From what I remember, it's only one kind. And then I made Jagertee. Jagertee is hunter's tea, I think, if you translate it. And that's something that I crave around Christmas, especially in the cold weather, because it's a typical Austrian skiing beverage. When you go out skiing, usually we drink Jagertee when it's super cold. The base is black tea, and then you will mix in straw rum, like high proof 80% straw rum, and another Austrian shot, or basically liquor, together with some spices, cinnamon and so on. In the end, it tastes just absolutely amazing, and it is a little alcohol, so you get warmer respectively. And then the Christmas markets in general. I mean, Christmas markets in Germany are just absolutely amazing, and I feel very lucky because just a few weeks ago I went to Germany, and right before I left, I went with my little sister to a very small, romantic Christmas market in Munich, and it started snowing really thick,
The big snowflakes.
Yeah.
Just like the slow motion.
Yeah.
Like super picturesque.
Super picturesque. It was cold, and we had all the food and drinks you could have. It was really nice. And I have to say, the Pullman Christmas market is super good. I was surprised.
You've been?
I've been for the first time this year.
Okay, I heard about it and I didn't get to go, but
and as a German, I was super picky, Yeah,
what was your impression?
We're evaluating everything. Is it according to the standards?
Does it pass the test?
Doesn't test, yeah. And I was super surprised. So we celebrated our Christmas party there, and we had a see-through tent in the middle of the Christmas market. So we got all the surroundings and the lights still,
Is it like the igloo style?
It is the igloo style, but it's not like the same shade. It's a regular tent.
Okay.
But it's the same material. And we had some catering there. It was super nice. But just all the little, shops around it were super German style. The food was good. The drinks were good. It's funny because sometimes you read signs with German words on it that just, they don't add up. That's funny. Yeah, it's funny because they try hard and I give them credits for it. But it's from the Christmas markets I've seen so far, at least here in the South, it's one of the really good ones.
How many little one market, it's the one that at least I used to back home, it's like little houses, or I don't even know how to describe, but it's like different individual shops of food, drinks, arts and crafts.
Yes.
How many of those? How many vendors?
Yeah, they increased it this year. So the years before, I heard it was much smaller. So they built a bigger menu, and they included way more markets. In total, I would have to estimate, I would say probably 40 or 50. So it was a decent size and a big variety. Sometimes, I mean, Germany, it's basically focused on, there's some leather crafts, some wooden, uh, basically toys or so you can buy, and then of course alcohol and drinks, food, everything. And I think it's found even in Coleman, people that were selling Botox or so. There were ladies that would say, "Hey, you wanna come by?" So now my lips are still fine. So it was funny. I think it's they kind of mix it together. They keep some core shops that you would see in Germany, but then also let other vendors say, "Hey, oh yeah," so it's diverse. I see.
It's diverse to say the least.
Actually, in Chicago, this was the best one I've been to so far. I went there multiple times every year, basically, consecutively for a good time. And they do a really good job. It's very authentic and gives you a great feeling as a journal to be closer to home.
Oh, and that's great. Did you get the snow too that day?
Yeah, it was, but it was also freezing. I mean, Chicago at that time, freezing, windy, cold.
All of it.
All of it. But I mean, it's closer to what we experience in Germany, yeah? And you want to drink that blue wine, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, these are the kind of important ones around Christmas. And then there was one thing I wanted to mention because it's very important for us as well, is Oktoberfest.
Yes.
So the Oktoberfest, also I've been to that one this year in Germany, in Munich. I mean, it's a huge fest, right? It's the biggest beer fest in the world. And they have 1 million visitors each day.
Just a quick correction here. The Oktoberfest welcomes about 500,000 of visitors a day. And it says that, yes, it is the world's largest folk festival that attracts millions of visitors each year. In 2024, the festival was attended by around 6.7 million people, and the attendance record was set in 2023 with 7.2 million visitors.
It's I think it starts towards the end of September and goes into October. And you dress up, the ladies have the dirndl, and it's very a special dress,
Okay.
right? And then the men, they wear the lederhosen, like leather pants, and you have all the different kind of course, vendors, but at the tents and the beer tents, and the Maßkrüge, you have the 1 liter beer, Mars, and just a good time. It's really, really nice, and you see copies of it around the world, and in the U.S., especially also, of course, in some breweries, and it's nice to see that it makes it across the world. But it's a very big fest, or a big festival for us in Germany.
Do you try to attend each year?
I try to be there when I'm there. So sometimes we have our annual management workshop around that time in Germany, so I'll try to connect it. This year it was the wedding of my little sister, so of course it wasn't been part of it, which was a super nice surprise because she didn't know I was coming, and nobody knew I was coming because I got my green card this year, and
Congratulations.
had fixed, and I didn't tell anybody. So I just walked up to it was in the courthouse. It was the small ceremony before the big wedding next year. And I brought my lederhosen, my leather pants as well for the festivities. I was guessing we might be going there as well, and we did, so it was perfect.
Wow. Now, that's awesome that you were able to do that. So it's really a huge part of the German culture to have those
In the south. Yeah.
the what?
In the south.
In the south of Germany?
Yeah, in Bavaria.
In Bavaria. Okay. You can even involve that into the wedding. Was it like the actual celebration, or was it just you brought some of the festivities into the wedding?
It was a regular ceremony in the courthouse, and then we had a get together afterwards in a little area outside.
Yeah.
For a few hours, and then we all went back to the hotel dressed up in that specific fashion, and then went to the Oktoberfest, we call it also the Wiesen, and spent a few hours there.
Okay, to the actual event.
The actual event. Had a few benches together, seating area together, and it was fantastic. And then from there left to continue in a restaurant for the rest of the night.
Really cool. I'd love to see pictures. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I love that you're able to still like experience these festivities, like these cultural moments, even though you've been living in the States for quite a while now. One thing I'm curious, because I went through that process of the green card as well, and until I got my green card, I could not leave. Unless you do a special request, you technically cannot leave the country. Did you make that special request for like fill out the form to get the ability to get out of the country prior to getting your green card, or were you waiting for your green card? Yes.
Yeah, I had a travel ban that started was a year ago. For 1 year, I couldn't afford until I got the green card in July. I couldn't travel, so they told me even 12 to 18 months. I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss the wedding. I'm gonna when anything happens, I have to get a special approval, like death in the family to leave the country. And
You don't wish that.
you don't want that to happen. Luckily, everything came. And the funny part was also in my case, my little sister and her fiance, we met in Puerto Rico this year because I could travel to Puerto Rico still with my ID.
Yeah.
So we had a super nice vacation there for 2 weeks, and they thought I'm not going to make it to the wedding, right? And they asked me, hey, Johannes, do you have any updates? And it's like, no, I'm sorry, I already had it back then, So I was very close to telling them, but I kept quiet, and 2 months later I was there.
That's amazing.
It was the most moving, emotional moment in my life. When I walked up the stairs and I saw my little sister there, and she didn't quite get who is standing there, and that was really, really nice, man.
Is she crying?
Of course.
What all of her makeup does?
She was for a second she was a little maggy. But it was amazing, yeah, and it was worth it. And yeah, it was just an amazing time. Yeah.
Wow. So glad you were able to do that. I'm sure it meant a lot to her as well.
Yes. Yeah. For all of us. I mean, and yeah, it was a very short trip for me. It was only 4 days there due to business topics, but and it worked out, and what was very interesting, and I believe in that, just everything worked perfectly. The whole travel there, going to Germany, going back, no delays, no problems with luggage, hotels, everything worked perfectly. I got upgrades where I didn't expect to get upgrades. It's like as if someone wanted to help me to get there. It was perfect. Yeah. So I'm very grateful for that experience.
That's great. Your green card, did you actually get it through your work?
Yeah.
As I'm kind of jumping back to this, just because you mentioned the green card, I know a lot of people wonder, you talked about the American dream, and obviously the journey is different for different people, but has it been the route for you to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, the company, after a couple of years, they offered me the sponsorship, and I definitely wanted to pursue it just for the fact that I couldn't see myself back in Germany already. Saw a better career opportunity here, and I figured, hey, it's a great opportunity for me. And then once I got it, the feeling the moment, the day I got it, I was actually even going for a run later that evening. I was smiling like a kid, like for hours. I was so happy. I was just so happy because it's a part of the freedom, I have my full decision making back, right? Because through the process, of course, you're tied to the company, right? And that's definitely something you have to acknowledge. But that something goes wrong, you have to go back. Something doesn't work out with your job, you have to go back. Now, if something happens, I can still be here. Yeah, and that's cool.
Oh, good for you.
Thanks.
We're going to switch gears a little bit. For our last segment, I have a little game I'd like to play with you. But before we get into the weeds of that, have you picked up any phrases or habits from your time here that you'd never expected to? Could be anything.
Yeah. One 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 habit which is weird. I mean, it's not weird, but it's crazy that I do that now. Is the way I eat. As a German, you hold your fork on the left, and the knife on the right. That's how you eat.
When you cut something.
No. Throughout the whole meal. Of course, if you eat soup, that's different. But now, I mean, from what I've discovered and probably just took over, is I cut something at the beginning, then put the knife away, and keep the fork on the right hand, and then eat with my right hand because I'm right-handed. And that's just something it's unbelievable because whenever I have friends from Germany come over, or even recently a business visitor, and I saw him eating and I saw the way he did it and versus I did, I was like, wow. It's like now another moment of, it's actually crazy because it's such a basic thing and this goes back to the early days, right? You have done it for 25 years and suddenly it changes. So that was a big discovery. In terms of phrases, that's hard. I'm sure I'm using phrases and
You say, hey, y'all.
hey y'all, not really. I'm not pissing.
Yeah, we saw them there. Yeah.
What's up, y'all? Hey y'all. No, I'm not doing that. Okay, hold on. No. I use filler words like So that's interesting because that's not something you learn. You don't learn that. You just take it over. And also then using some phrases or in specific. Sometimes when you want to say something and it just comes to you because someone else told you about it in the same exact moment, you remember that and then you use it in the same exact moment without even knowing exactly the German meaning behind it. And don't ask me for examples, right? But I know examples. I know it happens to me.
Yeah.
How it happens to me.
That's interesting. Yeah, you never know. I mean, it's just natural, right? You don't think about these things and then suddenly you're there behaving in a different way or saying things in a way that you've never said those before.
Here, it's actually funny, I have to tell another story. Le Fresca?
Yeah.
The pizza place?
Yeah.
Where Marco is a great guy. And I will never forget the moment when I sat down, and ordered a pizza, and he came with a pizza at one of his waiters. Put down the pizza, and he started cutting the pizza for me. And I said, what are you doing? I said, I'm from Europe. I know how to cut a pizza. And he was like, I was almost offended, And Marco came and said, hey, let this guy, he knows what he's doing. But at the beginning, he had to do that in his restaurant because people didn't know how to cut a pizza. Because when it comes out of his oven, like it's one piece, he just brought it out, right? And people like, okay, what do I do now? Because it's usually when you get it for money. Domino's also, it's pre-cut, right? People just grab a slice. And that's not how you get it in Europe. You start eating pizza by making slices yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that was an interesting experience. And then once I had my family over, we went for dinner at this place. He made that comment, oh, nice to see people from Europe using fork and knife during the meal again. I wasn't doing it, but we're doing it again.
Oh, wow. It's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Welcome.
We're talking about food. I believe food is a universal love language. It bridges borders, definitely. It connects people. It really brings people together. What's one dish from home you wish you could introduce everyone here in Birmingham? And on the flip side, what's one dish that has won your heart in the South?
I would say, the dream would be I could introduce all the meals that my mom cooks here in the U.S. so they could take it and implement it in all restaurants. That would be all. But if I had...
We need to do that.
Yeah.
You said it. Opening a business is easy.
Opening a business is easy. The restaurant business is quite interesting.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a German restaurant here in Birmingham, or it's hard to find good ones. I know there's a place in Tuscaloosa, but yeah. So I would, if I had to choose one, I would definitely go for a schnitzel. Potato salad I make myself. That's just something so easy and very close to where I'm from or what we eat. Dish from Alabama. I'm not a super fan of fried food, and there's a lot of fried food here. If I had to choose one, I took barbecue, for example. Sauso Kitchen barbecue is amazing. It's very, just very good dish. I love eating that. Not very often, to be honest, but when I get the chance with coleslaw, and maybe the end of banana pudding or something like that, it's cool. It's really a very delicious dish. There's things like fried okra, and it's interesting. I don't mind eating that, but everything fried is something I like. Okay, try to stay away from it. Yeah. What's your favorite dish in Alabama?
Actually, I tried fried tomatoes for the first time, and I was from a neighbor who cooked them for us, and I was in love
Really?
with it. I thought, wow, the acidity of tomatoes with the crunch. I just never thought this was a thing. But to your point, I don't eat a lot of fried food either. So that's not something that I naturally gravitate towards, that I would naturally order for myself. But when I have it, I enjoy it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I had them too a long time ago, but yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. And one thing I remember about you too is you were talking about how you try to eat and buy organic produce, how it's sometimes difficult to just go with organic produce. Obviously, they have a higher price tag as well.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? Is it the same as doing it in Germany, or is it more challenging to do here if this is something that's important to you?
Let me let me start with, you are what you eat,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I want to fuel my body. I want to give my body the energy that it needs to do all the things I'm doing, which is when I work, staying focused, using less energy for digestion. When I run, have uh, all the fuel that I need to do long routes, for example. And so yes, I'm still following this kind of diet, and I try to buy fresh fruits, veggies, and make sure it has a certain origin and quality. And it's super expensive, and that's what really annoys me, because in Germany, as you mentioned, I think it's way cheaper, right? I'm not walking away with a $250, $200 bill and have another basket full of of very high quality stuff. In Germany, it's 50 to 100, right? It's more than half of it what you would spend to get the same quality, and access to healthy food is way better in Germany as well. So the whole obesity topic in the end that comes out of fast food and the lifestyle gear, we don't have that too much in Germany, and it comes originally out of, I think, the way this can be accessed and the way it is communicated in, maybe in the educational part as well, what sponsors are behind. I mean, it's it's another topic
Yeah.
to talk about. And what's interesting is also, and I mentioned the lifestyle, fast food. So in the U.S., there's a lot of focus on work, right? On working long hours, having a career, versus the work-life balance in Germany. In Germany, people work between 35 to 40 hours. They value vacation a lot, holidays, and then they're off. Here, of course, you work on weekends, partially, or you are, still reachable somehow. So that creates already a difference. And then it just made sense to me to say, okay, fast food, grab and go, coffee to go, everything is on the go, kind of like, and has to be quick. And this kind of is also seen in that part, nutrition, basically. So when I went to Mallorca, Spain last year, and I remember sitting down drinking an espresso for €1.50, or maybe not even that, and just sitting down like everybody else.
Yeah.
Sitting down, watching people walking by, having a good time, having maybe some reflective moment, I don't know, reading the newspaper. That was so nice, and it kind of showed me that what a difference it is to how people do it here, like Starbucks, did my thing to go, everything. So that's something where I try to be more aware, having food in a more quiet setting, and enjoy it, and not really be like eating fast food all the time. So of course I have a pizza sometimes. Of course I have a burger with a friend. That's totally fine. I love it. And sharing the tacos with Mexicans, or the breakfast with Germans. So that's the bridge again, right? And the connection with people and the exchange that we have over food, which is nice, and it's relationship building. But ultimately, I want to have my way of nutrition for the most part to stay healthy and happy.
Absolutely. It's so important. Yeah, and we all have different ways of looking at consuming food and the type of food that we consume, giving different levels of importance. I know you mentioned even here, people in general, and that's a generalization here, but fried food is very like popular, or something that it's part of the regular consumption, I would say, right? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
To a certain extent. Um, and my husband's family, even though they all are from here, I mean, they are very health conscious. And I think it's because some of them are either dairy free, gluten free, have some limitations in terms of like what they can eat. So I think that naturally brings more of that health consciousness. Even another aspect to it is here, oftentimes we have the vigor stores where we can get everything in one place.
Mm.
And if for me back home, and I would think in Germany too, where you have a specific place to go get your fresh bread, so a bakery, you go get your meat at one place, you might go get your cheese, specialty cheese in the vendor, even the fruits and vegetables. It's more of that quality that you go get at a specific store that know how to get the produce locally, and they're fresh, and that's all they do. Is it more similar to that experience in Germany, or is it maybe a mix?
I mean, you have still chains, right?
Yeah.
You still have, I think they're the most common ones, going to Aldi, Lidl, and so on. You do have versions of what's called Metro, Metro in Germany, but here Costco.
Okay.
And that's like Costco is
Wholesale.
yeah,
Market. Yeah.
for big portions. You do have that in Germany as well, especially for people who own businesses and can make taking advantage of it. But definitely there's difference when you get it straight from a bakery, or a butcher, but you do get it also maybe not as super fresh, but you still get it in supermarkets that combine all these things in Germany. However, it is, especially with smaller communities and villages, towns, smaller towns, there's a bakery, there's a butcher, and you get all that stuff, and then you have that at home, and it's very nice. You kind of know where it's coming from, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have a few here in Birmingham, and that's why whenever I can, I like to go to that local bakery or go to that local specialty store, because like you said, I know where it's coming. I know where it's from. I know it's fresh, and I know they know their stuff if you have additional questions. So it's like a different experience. I think now it's time for the game. We had reached that point. So let's do a game that's called Truth der die Bahn. We will play a couple of rounds. For each round, you'll choose either a truth, dare, or debunk, where you share a surprising cultural fact. If you pick a truth, a dare, like teaching us a phrase in your native language, and you pick what that is, or a debunk, where you clarify a common stereotype about your culture. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready. So let's see how this goes.
Okay. For the first round, would you do a truth, dare, or debunk?
Let's go with the truth.
The truth. Okay. So tell us what's one thing about your culture that people assume is true and it actually is.
I think one pretty famous one is that we have a German autobahn and there is no speed limit, right? And that's actually something that is almost true because I think still 60-70% of the German autobahn doesn't have a speed limit. So our highway system in Germany, you can go as fast as you can with your car. There's some portions where of course it's limited, but there's other portions where it tells you the speed that you should be going, but it's not like restricted. And I think what you need to know is that it takes us a lot to get a driver's license in Germany. So we spent 35-40 hours of driving lessons through the city, through country roads, on highways, because you have to get used to the speeds, right? And there's a Porsche coming with 200 miles per hour from the back. How should I behave, right? Or even you being the person driving that speed. So there's a lot that goes into it, as well as the theoretical part of it. So you spend 50 hours easy getting a driver's license plus $2,000 or more getting one, right? So it's a big thing. And I have to admit, I feel a little bit different here in the U.S. now, having the driver's license and the education, and then being restricted to 80 miles per hour or 75 or 70 or whatever the speed limit is. And knowing I could go way more, and I'm also educated to do that, right? Almost feel like a little bit superior, and then when you go to places like Atlanta, you're like, what the heck is going on here? Nobody knows him. It's an interesting topic. Whenever I go to Germany and I have the chance to get a rental car, I'm gonna pick usually a better one and hit the highway and go.
Do you drive a car with a stick, manual, or automatic, or both?
In Germany or here? From all the cars I had 2 stick and 2 automatic. Yeah. First was a stick, then it was again stick, and then it was automatic, and now automatic.
Okay.
But I prefer, this is how I grew up, you learn on the stick shift.
Same. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, you're in full control of the car.
I was just telling my husband recently, I was like, I really would like to get a car with a stick. It's hard to find one that these days. I mean, you probably need to go back to an old car to have the stick that you move and shift gears. I don't know. Like, I found that a lot of the recent cars, it's just like you change to manual mode, but it's not the same thing because you just a little push. So
you do find older cars that have it, but also there's certain brands that still keep that. Yeah, I would say their brand heritage, like Porsche or BMW, they still make stick shifts.
okay.
So you will still find that, and yeah, I mean it's amazing. I like it a lot. But that's basically the speed limit topic, and the tempo limit, as we say in German. The speed limit topic in Germany is definitely true. It gets harder though to really sustain higher speeds because many people are now using the left lane, which is supposed to be the lane for people that drive fast.
Yeah.
They're blocking it now more and more with trucks or elderly people just going anywhere. It's still more structured or ordered than in the U.S. where you can go left, right everywhere.
Okay. How many lanes? Is it just 2? Or do you have more?
It depends. I think it's almost never as many as we can get here, like 5, 6, whatever lanes. It's usually 2 to 3, I would say, in here.
Okay. And we're talking on the highway.
Highway, and you're talking narrow, right? We're talking about really not the same width of the street, and you have way higher speeds. So I can see how people, and I know from people that went on business trips to Germany, Americans, let's say, oh, I'm not a driver, well, it's crazy. It's just absolutely
You call it Autobahn?
Autobahn.
Okay. That's the highway.
That's the highway.
Autobahn. Okay, cool. Okay, let's do another one. Truth, dare, or debunk?
Let's do dare.
Dare. You'll teach us something? Dare to teach? Can you share a phrase in your native language that everyone should know and tell us maybe what it means? I can give it a try.
Okay, then we'll start with something I would say easy. Is, whenever you're gonna have that Oktoberfest, the Weißwurstfrühstück, and you're gonna do cheers, then you say Prost, basically. So Prost, there we go. So this is when you do make cheers, basically.
Yeah.
Or when you're in more like a formal setting, glass of wine, in a restaurant, for example, or at home, we say zum Wohl.
Zum Wohl.
Zum Wohl.
Zum Wohl.
That I usually say not Prost when I do cheers with a glass of wine. I say zum Wohl, versus with beers or with friends or with cachet, like Prost.
Okay. So depending on what type of drink you're
Branding setting, yeah.
in the setting, the people, maybe that's your right. So like a business meeting, you'll probably use the formal one.
Yes, a business meeting, I would use the formal one. And then also when you say bon appetit, right? You would say guten Appetit.
Guten Appetit.
Very good, yeah, guten Appetit. But when you're like with workers or with friends and you just want to take, you say Mahlzeit.
Say that again.
Mahlzeit.
Mahlzeit.
Yeah, it's like Mahl is like meal.
Yeah.
And Zeit is the time.
Okay.
Mahlzeit.
Mahlzeit.
So that's very good, yeah. So that's also more informal one, casual one versus.
I love that there's a distinction. You think that's very good.
Just don't say Mahlzeit the wrong setting, because it happened to me, and it's very embarrassing.
Why not?
I mean, I was at a very nice. It was still a friend's dinner, but it was white tablecloth and when everyone wanted to say like bon appetit, guten Appetit, I said Mahlzeit, and I was like coming with like as a worker, that was still,
You regretted it.
that was, they laughed about it, but I know exactly, how I felt at the moment.
I shouldn't forget about it, but
Yeah, it's okay.
See round 3, truth, dare, or debunk.
Let's do debunk then.
Debunk, yeah. What's one of the biggest stereotypes maybe about your culture that's totally false?
It's totally false.
Yeah, so that people think about it, that is the case. So it's really a stereotype, an assumption, something that people think that is a certain way, and he can help by debunking that myth.
There's probably a couple of things or stereotypes that might be true for some Germans, but you cannot really say that it's, for everyone. So being punctual, for example, that's definitely something where Germans tend to be more punctual. Time, it's about respect. But I know, for example, my case, it's very much individual, because it depends on where you spend your time mostly and what influenced your behavior, I would say, because when I came back from South Africa, where time is a completely different topic, then I was late. I was really late. I was not paying so much attention to time anymore. I was laid back. So it can change people, right? And I feel it has also had an impact on me living here a bit. It's still more strict, I would say. People still, but there's more flexibility. If you're 5 minutes late, I think it's still fine. So I would say yes and no. It is out there the Germans are punctual. That's somewhat true, but it's something you have to really take the individual and his story and experience into account.
Big punctual means what? To be there 15 minutes in advance? Is it to be there right at the dot, or is it to be there a few minutes before?
You can also be too early, right? So it's on the dot plus, I would say, a few minutes over. And then there's an expectation if you're late that you give a notice, right? You will never experience that, of course, with the Mexican culture from what I've experienced so far. When you say they're partying out, and we have that situation when we have a Christmas party starting at 5, I know the Mexicans won't show up before 6, right? 6:30. So that's kind of like, and it's because it's their culture. It's like that. I even learned in Duolingo, so like it's funny. Yeah, time is perceived in a different way,
Definitely.
when a German invites,
Yeah.
for example, best friend Daniel, this party, he says, "Hey, 8 p.m. we start. I'll make sure I'm there shortly after."
Okay.
If someone else invites, I've been invited to Mexican parties and know that I can be half an hour late, no problem. It's not being late.
Yes.
So I take that into consideration. One thing that I need to mention, the wedding that I was invited for was, my little sister's wedding in Germany. I got an invitation and there was a time on the invitation, and it's the only piece I had. Right? So there was all the information I had for the wedding. Nobody knew I was coming, and I could go by that invitation with all the details that were mentioned there. They were 100% accurate. I had to trust in this information, and I showed up at that time, actually 5 minutes before, and everybody was already there. So I came at the right time for the wedding. And that's just shows how much of German punctuality or so is in that, right?
Hold up. Turns out this one is not a myth. It is actually true. Our guest just hit us with a fact check, and we're here for it.
Round 4?
Round 4 now.
Truth, dare, or debunk?
Let's do another truth.
Okay. What's one other thing about your culture that people assume is true and it actually is?
I would say we like rules a lot. So rules and regulations.
But not on the highway.
Not on the
Autobahn.
not on the autobahn. That's true. I mean, for many of us, and if you probably has changed over the past 10 years as well since I've left the country. But it's just in our, I think, nature, especially in the government. There's set of rules. Everything is more ordered and structured, which has its advantages, but it can be also too much. For example, street signs. We have millions. I think they go over 20 million street signs or something. I mean, we have 80 million people living in Germany, in a small country, less than the size of Texas. And we still have so many regulations in place just to go from A to B. And there's almost not one thing that's not written down in some piece of paper, right? And you have to get approval for this and that. And one example, for example, my recent trip to the consulate in Atlanta, the German consulate in Atlanta, for my passport renewal, even though I was in the United States.
Okay, small interruption. Coming back, we had to put some more memory in the card. My question, we were talking about the truth. You want me to ask you again?
So we talked about truth regarding, and I mentioned the rules and regulations
so
in Germany.
How that's true that Germans are rule followers.
Yes.
But except on the highway.
Yeah. I mean, there should be, right, at these speeds, but for this topic in terms of rules, regulations, structure, bureaucracy, and so on, I want to mention that example that I went to the consulate in Atlanta, and I wasn't really expecting much in terms of German regulations. maybe it was my fault, but I came there, I thought I came there prepared, being German and having all the documentation, all the documents, everything with me. And then the first kind of interface is security guard, and they check your documents and want to see if you have everything that you need for your appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So that person looked at my documents and said, do you have copies of everything? I mean, what do you need? Why do you need, why copies? Yeah, you need a copy of every document you bring. So, no, I don't. I didn't know that. So, yeah, but you have a copy machine, right? So we can do the copies here real quick. No, you have to come again with your copies. I was like, I came all the way to Atlanta.
Yeah.
I said, how much time do I have left? Yeah, you have 10 minutes. So, and where's the next place I can get copies? Yeah, there's like a FedEx. So I took all my stuff. I ran to the next FedEx store. I got it all copies in, and then went back up, went to my actual appointment, made it in time, and then the lady stepped in, German, to do my passport, and she said, oh, it was 10:30 a.m. You're the last one today, so we can take our time. So I basically had all that stress, and all these, issues to get there in time and do the copies and everything that I apparently missed. But then we had all the time for ourselves.
So
and
you
she could
rushed
have
for
done
nothing.
probably the copies too, because I asked her, and she said, yeah, that would have worked, So this is kind of my touch point again with German rules and regulations. And you see that the moment, I mean, when I hear it from friends, the moment they come back to Germany and they have to basically go to the courthouse and get registered again and everything, the whole process is just lengthy. And that's something that we definitely have too much of.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your advice for anyone interested of moving abroad. What's one piece of wisdom? What's one piece of advice you'd like to share to make the transition easier?
I would say be open, be flexible, take chances, really seek opportunities to talk to people, get in touch, get out of your comfort zone, make mistakes, learn from them, use them as a chance to make it better in the next encounter that you have. Accept others as the way they are. Learn about yourself. Learn about how you basically are as a person in different settings with different cultures. Just how that you reflect yourself, and have fun, because you get a lot of stories. You're gonna see many interesting people, and you can take a lot away for yourself in life. Yeah.
Well said. Johannes, thank you so much. I do want to give you an opportunity to share, if people are interested, to follow you, to hear more about what you do, or to get connected with other maybe Germans, or events of some sort, because that was one of your recommendations. I'd love for you to share where they can find you or follow you or get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the community.
If you're interested in the German culture, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, for example. I can connect you with also the Alabama-Germany partnership. If you want to learn German, if you're in the process of learning German, if you want to connect with Germans, the German society here in the States, also with the German-American Chamber, there's so much stuff that happens. Regulars tables in nice breweries around town, and events. So just hit me up. I'm sure you're gonna share maybe my link. Don't hesitate. I'm happy to support. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Johannes,
you.
it's been a pleasure. I've learned so much about your culture and just really your transition here, and it's been amazing. I'm sure our listeners have too. So thanks for your time. Again, I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to From Where to Here. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves discovering new cultures. Follow us on Instagram at From Where to Here Pod for exclusive updates, behind the scenes moments, and a peek at upcoming guests. Until next time, keep learning, keep connecting, and keep celebrating the beauty of languages and cultures. À bientôt!